Hi, everybody. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm happy to be with you again. It's October 1st, 2023. It's my birthday. Yay. Okay. All right. So, so, so big deal. Everybody says, but 71 today. All right. So I'm here to talk with you about Vedic astrology, and how it affects you and the world in general. Now, I just want to review some of the things that I got right and some of the things I got wrong. Okay. Because honesty is always a good cleanser. It's a good check on yourself. So the actor strike, I'm sorry, not the actor strike. The writer's strike is over. The actor's strike is not. So the actor's strike, I think, should go on for about another, I'm thinking about another month or so, just because of where Venus is positioning itself right now. Mercury is close to Virgo right now, so that should have told me um, the writer's strike would be over because Mercury rules writers, but actors are Venus ruled. So I think that's one of the reasons why the actors' strike was not resolved. It could be resolved in a couple of weeks. I'm not sure, but based upon viewing the chart. Now, the UAW I thought would be resolved more quickly, and that looks like it's going to be a bit extended over the next few weeks. And so we'll go into that when we go into the overall chart interpretation. I think I did say they wouldn't shut down the government. I can't remember exactly what I said last week. Uh, Again, I have to emphasize I'm 71 years old, but I believe I did say they would pass a budget resolution. As things got closer to the end point, I began to doubt that, and I thought they would only, but I didn't think it would be a very long government shutdown. And it did result in, it was actually pretty interesting because it did result in um, a pullback of aid to the Ukraine. So all right. So just to give you a little bit of background after that critical analysis of my predictive abilities, I think, okay, so I just want to share contact information with you, just so you know how to get in touch with me in case you want a reading or you want to study with me. My phone number is 508-525-0001. I can be contacted also at Gary Gomes, GaryGomes, and the letter G at gmail.com. You can text me or uh, phone me at 508-525-0001. All right. So again, we are going to have more than just me on this channel in the next few months. I did promise you I would be uh, looking at a way to get my computer, my my newest computer lined up. That hasn't happened yet, so I'm still working on the on Old Faithful here. Um, and and we are planning to have something with Lolita Donatello Reback in October. Uh, I still plan to do interviews with Alan Anand and Gary O'Toole and Paul Manley in the near future. And I am still working with Saptorishi Astrology uh, um, on a voluntary basis. So it's been interesting and it's been busy. So that's a good thing. So let's pull up the chart for the world right now. Okay, so I want to see which of these charts I want to look at. They're pretty much the same. So I'll pull up this one. I'll go to the left first. All right, it looks like you can see the chart, but I always do this 3 times just to make sure. Okay, so this isn't the chart. This is the template. All right, so we'll do it twice and 3 times. A good Jupiter number. All right, so that should stabilize. Now we're going to pull up a now chart, and we're going to make it for New Bedford, Massachusetts. Okay, if the chart's male or female doesn't matter, to be honest. All right, so right now we have a chart with K2 in the first house. So again, that was, basically, yeah, charts are descriptive as well as analytical. And essentially, I was critiquing myself from last week. So that's why we have K2 in the first house. K2 is a critical planet. It's at, um, you look carefully, you can't really see it that well from the screen, but it's at 0 degrees, 42 minutes of Libra. And it's stationary direct. So stationary direct is a phenomenon in the nodes that was really developed, by a guy named Michael Erlewine. And I think it was by Michael Erlewine in the 1960s, I want to say. And so he essentially made that correction for because he felt they would be more accurate if they were if we use what are called true nodes rather than mean nodes. And mean nodes are not. It doesn't mean they're nasty, but it means they're it's the average motion, which is a more traditional Indian measurement. So this is a Western variation on an Indian measurement. Okay, so uh, I mean the advantage of of true nodes is you do get to see the stationary direct motion every once in a while, and that makes to me that actually gives significant events. So essentially, we do see a reversal if the nodes go true, if the nodes go direct in policy, and one of the things that happened just recently in Congress was the spending compromise bill, essentially cut off funding for the Ukraine. Now, keep in mind there are a variety of ways the government can figure out ways to send money to the Ukraine without necessarily having congressional approval. So that doesn't necessarily mean the United States is backing down. But I also found it significant that Poland is considering cutting off aid to Ukraine over the next few weeks. And they'll honor their current obligations, but they won't send any more. And so essentially, regardless of how you feel about the engagement, it looks like there will be a shift uh, in the power structure. Whether or not you view that as a bad thing or a good thing, that's your individual decision. But if but again, significance doesn't equal goodness. Okay, significance equals change, and it equals shifts. So, like as when a naturally direct planet goes retrograde, it becomes more powerful. A naturally retrograde entity like the nodes become more powerful when they go stationary. So again, not every Indian astrologer would necessarily take this as being a definitive assessment, but but there it is. That's what's happening right now. Uh, the thing is, we still have this rather. So A couple of positive things though. Mercury's about to change signs in like by tomorrow. Okay, so that's really good. So Mercury's really close to its exalted sign. Is only it'll probably change by the end of the day today. Okay, so 29:56 at the latest October. It'll be in Virgo in its preferred sign. Is at the end of a sign is really not. Gandanta points are special points in a chart which are indicate the end of things. Is at an extreme degree, but it's not at a Gandanta point. And let me explain. Gandanta points end occur at the end of Cancer, Scorpio, early Sag, and Pisces, because that marks the end of both a sign and a nakshatra. So those are particularly strong Gandanta points. Mercury is really the most important planet in the chart right now, though, because it is what's called the Atmakaraka planet. That is the planet which is highest in degree, regardless of um, sign the sign is placed in. So Mercury's like ridiculously important in this chart. Mars is about to change signs within about a day as well. Okay, within about a day to 2 days, and Mars will move into Libra. Now it'll be really close to this conjunction with Ketu. So over the next week, be especially careful of arguments with family members, arguments with relationship partners, things breaking down, miscommunications. Also, be very careful driving over the next week or so because Mars in K2 tends to present accidents. You'll also probably see some kind of financial adjustment, especially connected with real estate. And when I say financial adjustment, either pessimism or losses in the real estate market. That's a very superficial analysis. Mars, if you look very carefully at this chart over here, is in the same sign it is in the Navamsha chart as it is in the birth chart. And this is more technical than I think a lot of listeners look for, but it's called Vargotama. So again, this will give a really strong emphasis on real estate, especially over the next week or so. Okay. Real estate, also oil. Mars is connected with oil. And also, I think we can see lessening supplies of oil and natural resources over the next month or so, months to 2 months. So it looks like this is going to be the trigger of a rather difficult winter or early fall for most countries because of the Mars K2 conjunction. Okay, this can lead to warlike states. It doesn't necessarily trigger a war. It doesn't necessarily mean that a war will start, but it's really, really easy for war to start. And if I were given um, my druthers or my inclination would be that it doesn't necessarily affect Ukraine, but it does affect China and uh, India, I think. And I'm going to look at the astrocartography map to make sure that I'm right. Also, there are a slew of quote unquote lesser conflicts around the world. Azerbaijan has been attacking Armenia for a while. It's been it's been so this is a war that we're not really paying that much attention to because it's the no offense, but these are smaller countries. They're not a focus of political intrigue like Ukraine and Russia are, or China and Taiwan are. But These are important. Local conflicts like this can sometimes increase, and we have a Jupiter aspect in this combination right here. So I think you're going to see a lot of problems with trade over the next few months, especially into November and December. And so unfortunately, it doesn't look good economically. Mercury being exalted is good for communications. That's really what it's good for. It's good for trade negotiations. But Venus will be basically over the next month, it'll be aspected fully by Saturn. So that'll give some difficulty in relationship life, some difficulty in financial prosperity, some difficulty in um, making sure that the world is functioning properly. And the other thing I want you to keep in mind is Saturn still has this kind of strong, very strong influence in the overall chart. Is retrograde, Jupiter's retrograde. So I think that when you have both Saturn and Jupiter retrograde, there's not much progress being made. You'll see some people able to uh, pull back and get some ideological positions adjusted, but Rahu kind of spoils it. So you'll have uh, essentially what I would call institutionalized lies. And what I mean by that is if it doesn't favor a certain position, uh, politicians will lie to justify their own position. And you may say, well, what's different, uh, Gary, from that happening all the time? Because they do that all the time. And I think the difference in this is you'll see um, more more of an ideological division. So essentially, um, we'll see facts being manipulated or um, insinuations being brought up as verification of truth. Um, I think um, I think one of the things that's been so irritating for me over the past, I would say over the past 15 years, it's not even recent, over the past 15 years, is the way that every single small news item turns into a major issue when they're not. They're just, they're just blips in normal activity. One of the most interesting things, though, I think that I saw happen, and it's relatively um, it's not really a huge news story, but it's kind of a significant news story. Uh, there was a Democratic congressman who was caught on camera triggering a fire alarm when they were going to have a vote on the budget resolution package. Um, it's unclear as to what the circumstances were. I mean, the video clearly shows him pushing the button, but I don't know whether he confused that button for another button or something like that happened. But it's really, it's really these are like the kind of like weird or oddball news stories that show up during these cycles, during this Rahu uh, Ketu, and if it's an attempt to sabotage a vote, it's a very obvious and very clumsy attempt. If it's an accident, it's like, what the heck is this guy doing in Congress? But again, it doesn't mean that everybody who sits in Congress is really, is really necessarily uh, the brightest bulb in the world. It's just, and I've seen plenty of examples of Republicans who aren't that bright. So it's just, um, it's just fascinating to watch this stuff. It's like if you look at it as a play as opposed to something where you feel you have to um, fight for whatever team you're backing, that's it becomes a little bit more endurable. Because even though there are serious consequences, excuse me, even though there are serious consequences, some of it is really better than the writers could come up with, I think, on TV. But yeah, I think um, again, I'm not really a doom and gloom astrologer. You know, that's not really something I feel comfortable with because I can always see ways that people can resolve uh, their conflicts. It's not, you know, it's just sort of my nature to be optimistic. But over the next few months, economically, it looks fairly difficult. Um, Internationally, there is a danger of war. Mars K2 conjunctions do give a danger of war, um, and also maybe even political assassinations is possible. But I think overall, from this particular combination, we've had that danger for the past year and a half, roughly, because of Rahu being in Aries. And again, we have situations like France is still in an uproar. Uh, Lots of countries around the world, we're not seeing it quite so much in American media because we're really focused um, on this internal battle for the soul of the United States, or for preserving democracy, or for preserving freedom, depending on which side you're on. But I think one of the things, or preserving freedom of speech, excuse me, depending on what side you're on. But I think one of the things is if we look at the overall world, it's kind of chaotic right now. Now, that doesn't mean people are like every country is going through this, but there are certain hotspots like France, certain parts of Africa, certain parts of Asia uh, are going through, and certain parts of South America in particular, and even certain parts of the United States are going through major upheavals. And But again, most people aren't seeing that. Most people aren't seeing that in their day-to-day world. But again, be really careful because the Mars K2 conjunction can be really kind of explosive. So if a person gets um, is there is a tendency to get like really, really hot tempered, and again, with marriage, relationships, people often get really, really angry. And partnerships, people often get really, really angry and really, really aggressive uh, when this combination comes up. So it's not even global, it's personal as well. Okay. So that's just my advice to you as an astrologer. Just really try to meditate, try to be logical, try to be cool. I know it's not always easy, and you'll get through this okay. And again, it's going to depend on what kind of sign. Like if you're a Taurus rising or a Taurus sun, you'll actually have a lot of success in overcoming obstacles and enemies. So it's not necessarily entirely bad, but it is again kind of um, an aggressive period. Also, for some people, especially people like Libras or Virgos who had trouble getting started, it'll force you to get started. You know, that's one positive thing about it. But you have to overcome. Um, so it'll give more energy, but there'll also be this feeling of like trying to think of a good way to put it. It won't matter. You know, this feeling that it won't matter. You'll just get angry and it won't matter. But um, I think I think it's really good for creative work. The Mars K2 combination is really excellent for creative work, and it's also It's also good for breaking the log jams in your relationships. So, and also it is good for if you're selling off real estate or you're trying to fix things. It's fairly good for that too. All right, so let's go to the individual signs for this month. And let me move my face down here. There you go. All right. Trying to figure out where to put me. Okay, we'll put it. Let's look at it. Okay, so when we're doing this, this is a risky period, quote unquote. So I just looked at the Panchanga and Yogi positions, and that has to do with when the reading is being done. So Yogi planet is the sun, so today is a good day to start things. There is a certain amount of risk. Uh, Yama is the deity, so this does allow us to get reborn, but we're going to have to get rid of some old patterns of behavior. I think that's really what it represents. Yama has a more negative meaning for some individuals, but Yama is essentially death, life, and resurrection. You know, it's not necessarily connected with just death. You know, with the end of life. It allows you to actually advance and put your best foot forward. Okay, so you can re-energize projects. If we're looking at, so let's look at Aries first in terms of the individual signs. Aries has Jupiter and Moon in it, so it's a lot of focus on home life. Still, not really a lot of happiness with the amount of money we're earning. Uh, we seem to be bedeviled by people who are jealous of us or who are trying to hurt us, and we're worried about it. Okay, Saturn's aspecting the Moon. A lot of that attention will be taken away, I would say, around mid-October, late November at the latest. Um, but that Rahu in the first house has really been troublesome for Aries. Second house Lord is Venus. It's in the fourth house. So again, this has been basically people or friends we trust. We find we can't trust anymore. Mercury's in the fifth house. Some problems with communications with kids. That'll go away uh, within about a day. Mars has been in the sixth house, so that makes us more aggressive, more meaningful, or more meaningfully direct. Mars goes into the same sign with K2, and so be careful about arguments with relationship partners. And Saturn sits in the 11th house. So overall, this is a lucky month for Aries, but it'll feel like everything has to work very hard. But with Saturn in the 11th house, let's go back to that. Saturn in the 11th house will give gains, but it will give us people who are friends we thought were friends and are trying to destroy us. So just be a little careful about who you trust in terms of friendships. Um, Friendships haven't been the best in the best condition because Mercury has been afflicted and Saturn is in the 11th house from the national horoscope. So it's really been a tough time for friends. A lot of people are kind of isolated right now. For Venus, for Taurus has Venus in the third house. So strong desire for self-expression, for financial gain. Mercury's in the fourth, aspected by Saturn. So this has been kind of a difficult period for uh, financial growth. You'll see that change a lot over the next week or so. And but again, more health issues, probably more digestive issues for this sign, and more problems with relationship partners, if we're going to be totally honest, with Taurus too. Saturn gives good work ethic for this sign. but there'll be a lot of expenses because of friends, or a lot of friends who seem to be um, good, but only so long as they can use you. So again, I tend to be a little bit. This isn't a cynical nature on my part. I just tend to. Um, I watch out for friendships overall. A lot of the combinations for friendships aren't good in this over this coming week. For people with Sun in Gemini, Sun rising sign or Moon in Gemini, again, just to repeat um, what I've said in previous weeks. April 15th to May 15th is Aries. May 15th to June 15th is Taurus, and June 15th to July 15th is Gemini. Okay, so this is for those born between June 15th to July 15th. And Venus is in the second house, so this makes this sign very loving, very beautiful, very attractive, very expressive, but maybe a little shy. Some relationship problems for this sign as well. Mars is aspecting the seventh house. Now, the good thing about this transit of Mars to the fifth house is it'll make you um, less the victim in relationships and more of an aggressor. Mars and K2 will come together in the fifth house. It may mean you'll just reject lovers or reject relationship partners for the time being and focus more on financial gains and financial improvement. So that would probably be a positive for Gemini. And you'll have opportunities for romantic involvements because Mars in Libra is a sexual relations sign. But with K2 there, you really won't care whether or not there really won't be a lot of emotional attachment to that. So good news if you're interested in a lover or at least um, in getting involved in a sexual relationship where you won't be victimized. Um, this is a good sign for Gemini. This is a good move for Gemini. Seventh house Lord is in the 11th house. So relationship partners, you still can't trust long-term relationship partners from this particular combination. And Saturn is aspecting that particular sign. You can't trust friends. You can't trust relationship partners. Be very, very insular when you're dealing with people. By insular, that is, don't tell them all your secrets. Don't tell them everything you know up front, because that will make you vulnerable. Uh, it's just my advice. Um, for Cancer, Cancer has Venus in the first house, so it's been easily hurt over the past few months. Um, Venus moves to the second house, so it'll make you sad about relationship life, but at the same time more realistic. Mercury will move to the third house along with and will be in the same sign with the sun. This will allow you to um, communicate better. It will allow you to um, assert yourself better, make more money. Mars moves into the fourth house along with K2. Again, be careful about being used or victimized by relationship partners over the next 2 months. And let's see now, Saturn's in the eighth house. Now, this is in Indian astrology. If the moon were in Cancer, this would be called an Ashtami Shani. So that indicates a breakdown in or a reconfiguration of life pattern. So essentially, Ashtami Shani usually indicates hidden enemies or realigning and reformatting your life. So again, this is not necessarily a bad thing, but it will let you know who your friends are very, very quickly and who your enemies are very, very quickly. And this will continue for about the next couple of years. So there'll be a period of relative isolation compared to this normally gregarious sign. And They'll also have good career opportunities for it if you work at it. Okay. All right. So Cancer actually looks like it has a relatively positive month, except for relationship life. Financially, it looks like it's going to do much better. Leo has Mercury in the first house right now. It'll have Mercury in the second house, yeah, along with the Sun of the Lord of the first house. So that's really, really good for financial growth for the sign. Mars and K2 will be in the third house, so Leos aren't going to be taking any prisoners. They'll be very aggressive, very forceful. Relationship life, still a little bit disappointing. Um, and career life, good, but again, a lot of effort. And I think one of the things that this encourages Leos to do is to look overseas for opportunities and also look for um, increasing their public image. Their public image will improve a great deal over the next week or so. Four, um, Virgo, Sun and Mars are in the first house. Less anger for Virgo. That's a good thing, but it'll be expressed more vocally. So less internalized anger for Virgo. But again, watch out for explosive speech. And what I mean by explosive speech is angry speech. It could affect family life. It could affect children and creativity, things like that. Saturn's in the sixth house. That's not a bad placement for Saturn. So there is a willingness for the sign to work very hard. And we have Jupiter, Moon, Rahu in the eighth house. This is not a bad combination either because it will give a lot of research, maybe over research into metaphysical or spiritual areas, and maybe a little bit too underground. Um, I'm trying to think of a good way to put that. Let me just move this box out of the way. Get closer. Maybe a little bit too research, maybe obsessively researching and self-doubting from this combination, but it's still not a bad combination for maybe you want to learn new things or learn new topics. For uh, career life, actually, it should benefit career life a great deal, and you should see some financial gains coming in over the next month or so. Venus in the 12th house is great for financial improvement, especially from foreign sources, and also, excuse me, it's good for savings. For Libra, Libra has had K2 in the first house for the past year and a half, so it's made the sign a little bit depressed or a little bit anxious, really uncertain about what it wants to do about relationship life. Um, that'll go away in about a month's time, roughly. Um, but I think one of the things you're going to see is Mars going into the sign. It'll also make you more prone to picking relationship partners based upon sexual attractiveness versus compatibility. So you have to watch out for that. And again, over the next couple of weeks, just be really, really, um, you don't have to shut up, but be really, really careful about what you say and what you do because it could involve losses for you or loss of a relationship or loss of wealth. Just be cognizant of that. Mars is in, so it's kind of a dangerous month for Libra. Again, for all signs, um, caution is advised in terms of driving or traveling. Um, and I think um, I'd encourage you to travel as little as possible. Uh, and especially avoid two season Fridays if you can. But I don't want you to build your life based around fear. Just be extra careful on those days. Okay. In terms of financial growth, it can be unexpected financial booms when K2 and Mars come together. Saturn's in the fifth. That's actually a good placement in terms of building long-term respect and long-term authority. Moon and Jupiter and Rahu are in the seventh house, so you should get some increased business opportunities, especially from people from distant countries. And career life and financial gains should improve a lot over the next month. But again, like I said, just be careful not to destroy your foundation. All right, for Scorpio, this is October 15th to November 15th. Just remember the dating. And I'm sorry, this is November 15th to December 15th. October 15th to November 15th was Libra. My apologies. So for Scorpio, the Bava Lagna is in the first house. Now that's essentially, I very rarely talk about these combinations, but this is a good wealth enhancing placement for Scorpio. It will involve a lot of hard work. Saturn's aspecting the first house. And the Aruda Lagna is over here with Moon, Jupiter, and Rahu, which will indicate the person will feel like their life is nothing but work, nothing but obstacles. That's okay. You'll live through that. Seventh house Lord Venus is in the 10th house, so there can be a career with a wife or relationship partner, but it'll seem like a lot of work. And finally, Sun is in the 11th house, so you should have some good friendships for a change for this sign, and less fighting and more cooperation, better communications. Mars and K2 will be in the 12th house by the end of the week, actually by tomorrow. And so, again, not really the best time to fiddle around or fool around with relationship patterns, not a good time to change partners. Okay. For Sagittarius, Sagittarius has Jupiter in the fifth, along with Rahu. That creates, as I've said before, a kind of a Raj Yoga. It's in the same sign with the moon, so that diminishes that just a little bit because the moon's the eighth house lord. But basically, this combination is not bad for doing research. It's also what's called a Vipreet Raj Yoga, or no, it's not a Vipreet Raj Yoga. I apologize, but it's essentially a good combination for popularity and for notoriety. And although Rahu Moon conjunctions tend to be a little bit anxious, okay, so there'll be some anxiety over creative projects, maybe some overextension in creative projects. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter, so it's going to make you less optimistic. The outcomes will be great, but it's not really this really isn't a bad combination. It creates a really nice combination between the fourth, the fifth, and the first houses in the chart. So that's good for overall improvement in life. And I think you'll see a lot of creativity coming through. Venus is the lord of the sixth house. It's in the eighth house. That is a Vipreet Raj Yoga. That means you have a Dustana lord you have a bad lord going into a bad house. So that diminishes illnesses, that diminishes sicknesses. Seventh house lord is Mercury. Again, the seventh house lord goes to the 10th house. So relationship life will be enhanced through career, business partnerships will be enhanced through career activities. So it's a good month for new business partnerships. K2's in the 11th house. Again, Sag should not trust his friends. His friends will not be reliable, will not be faithful, will be a little bit angry and destructive, to be honest. Capricorn, we're nearing the roundup now. Capricorn, Saturn's in the second house. A lot of good financial strength for this chart. Jupiter, Rahu, and Moon are in the fourth house. So that gives this sign a lot of popularity. Venus is still in the seventh, about to go into the eighth house, which should give some financial gains to this sign over the next couple of months. Mercury moves to the ninth house, good for communications, good for increased wealth. and K2 is in the 10th house. So again, a lot of career motivation, a lot of career ambition. So even though even though this sign won't necessarily be recognized for career development, or recognized in career, his career will be the main focus and it will do well financially this week. For Aquarius, Aquarius has Saturn in the first house, so there's a good deal of authority connected with the sign. People who have Aquarius moon, suns, or rising signs should expect to see them viewed as being authorities, but that will also imply additional work. They'll also have to be a little bit careful about overconfidence because of Saturn in the first house. It's a delicate balance between insecurity and overconfidence. And let me explain that. Saturn is a planet which likes to have things done a certain way in a certain manner. And if it's retrograde, it's stably stubborn. So I think one of the things is you'll see an increased flexibility in this sign because of Saturn being retrograde, a willingness to reconsider some of the positions it's taken before, but also a certain stubbornness and refusal to adjust. And it will be expected to, a lot of people in this place will be expected to be obeyed unconditionally. Um, the other thing is, so that's good for authority, but again, it can introduce what I would call dictatorial impulses. Jupiter, Saturn's aspecting the moon, so it should be a good sign for recognition, a good time for recognition for the sign. And also, it should be a good time for the sign to start writing. For Venus is in the sixth house, it'll be in the seventh house pretty soon. It will open up avenues for new business partnerships and new relationship partnerships over the next month or so. Let's see now. Saturn, we have Mars moving from the eighth house to the ninth house, which should give it more emphasis on career life, more emphasis on pursuing its own career ambitions versus what other people want for it. And Mercury and Sun will be in the eighth house, so it's good for research, excellent for research, excellent for actually gaining some kind of hidden benefits, especially from the government. So this month, and K2's in the ninth house, so unexpected gains, but also unexpected blockages in luck. So Pisces, so this is a situation where something gets taken away from you and you say, oh, geez, I really didn't want that to happen. And something good gets put in its place. So that's interesting. So Pisces is the last sign we're going to be looking at. And Pisces has Jupiter in the second house, so there's a lot of emphasis on financial growth, success, maybe even, I would say, unreasonable demands for money. Fifth house Lord is the moon is located in the second house, so this is a good combination. This creates what's called a Dana Yoga or a wealth producing combination. Oftentimes connected with career. And Mercury's in the sixth, so communication will be a little bit tough, but it will improve a great deal after tomorrow, after by Monday of this week. So you have like three major transits occurring within roughly 1 or 2 days, and that's Venus, Mercury, and Mars, all changing signs. So this is a kind of a significant turning point over here. And these are slow, these are fast-moving planets, excuse me. So these change signs relatively frequently, but they're changing from relatively unhappy positions to relatively happy positions. So that's so it's really interesting to see the shift. And let's see now. Mars isn't happy in Libra, but it's happier than it is in Virgo. Let's see now. And let's see, all right. So seventh house, good for meeting new business partnerships, but again, watch out for victimization in relationships of any kind. So if you enter into a relationship, a business or personal, wait for a couple of months before you formalize it. Okay. Uh, Try and let's see now. We have K2's in the eighth house. So again, not really much gain through relationships or through business partnerships, but that could improve a little bit, especially in the property area for this rising sign or sun sign. Finally, Saturn's in the 12th house, a lot of expenses because of friends. And again, I'm not necessarily opposed to friendships. I'm just saying it's really more of a time in which friends, or especially social media, Mercury also rules social media, it's kind of a treacherous place right now. So just be a little bit careful, especially in social media over the next month or so, because you'll have your reputation uh, damaged if you're not careful. All right, so let's go over here. All right, so if we're looking at news, Venus and Saturn. So there were some issues about what happened with the Maui fires. So that'll be an ongoing investigation, Venus and Saturn, although it will calm down a little bit. But we should see land issues addressed over the next week in the Mars K2 conjunction. Lends me to believe there may be additional fires happening, not necessarily in Maui, but in other areas, and I'll point those out to you. Um, there's a sun line running right through, um, and there's a Mercury line running through Canada. Um, some news out of Canada, some news out of the west coast of the United States, especially connected with the government. We know that Senator Feinstein just passed away, and so California, and it's right near Sacramento. There'll be a lot of news, a lot of governmental news out of California. Um, let's see now. I would expect the replacement to be identified really, really quickly, but I'm also expecting a lot of controversy over government within the next couple of months. Um, and I won't predict who it is. I don't know who it will be. Mars Rahu over here is, if I'm judging from where Rahu is placed, I'm thinking Barbara Lee is the favorite, but I don't know. Mars and Rahu are, um, but it's a toss up in my mind. It could be Adam Schiff as well, So it's really it's between those two, but um, I don't know. It could be somebody totally off the wall. I can't read that well. Mars and Rahu are in Texas, going all the way up through North Dakota and South Dakota. Now, again, some danger of fires in Mexico, Texas, all the way through central Canada. So we have to watch out for that region. Over here, we have a moon line running through um, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, looks like Mississippi, and down by Nicaragua. So we have um, some governmental scandals happening in that part of the world. And we have Jupiter running up through Washington, D.C., right over a Venus line. So this is interesting because we'll have um, Venus is, so some scandals involving women uh, connected with this particular chart line between New York, Pennsylvania, all the way down through North Carolina, and all the way down into Cuba, and all the way down into Colombia, Ecuador, and touching on Chile. Saturn's running up through central Argentina, or through Argentina, all the way to the north, and all the way up to Maine. So there will be some restrictions or some obstructions, and women will be at the center of these particular issues. Okay. We have a sun line running through Brazil, so some problems with the government there. Mercury line, we're going to be hearing a lot more about Brazil over the next few weeks. Um, Iceland has, let me move this down here. Iceland has a Rahu line, so some government scandal in Iceland. Moon and Jupiter line, government scandals in Ireland, England, France, Portugal, Morocco. Uh, it's, I believe I'm not sure about that country. I'm sorry. I believe it's just down towards Ghana. I think that's Mali. And also in Algeria. Okay, so governmental disruptions in those parts of the world. France, as I said before, is a bit of a mess, so that's not really a surprise. But England looks like it's going to be brought into that fray as well. The other parts of the world, Venus is running up through Greece and into the eastern Baltic states and close to Ukraine. So I think we're going to see, again, a lot of stories involving women, a lot of stories involving agriculture, a lot of stories involving even flooding. So keep in mind, flooding is also an indication of Venus. So we have this Venus line running up here, through here. We're already experiencing flooding in that part of the world right now. Okay, on the eastern United States. So floods possible in Turkey as well, in Greece, and a Saturn line is running through Turkey and Ukraine. This could indicate some problems with governmental controls, and also through Egypt and Sudan, and all the way down through Western Africa, down through Mozambique and South Africa. If we have this Mercury line, we'll be hearing a lot more news about Ukraine. Ukraine's in really tough shape right now with the Saturn line running through it. And we'll hear a lot more news about Ukraine, about Russia. Uh, uh, a lot of lines are clustering up around here, close to Moscow. We'll hear a lot more news around Moscow and around Ukraine. And you'll see conflicts break out, I think, between Pakistan and Afghanistan, maybe touching India. Territorial disputes between India, Sri Lanka, I think, and China are coming. And finally, as we get over here, Venus flooding up through Vietnam and into central China, and also some government restrictions in through China, Borneo, and down into Australia. Finally, we get to Mercury lines. We're going to be hearing a lot about Australia and uh, New Guinea, and also some governmental scandals connected with Australia and also New Zealand. So that's it for this week. I love you all. I have to run and close up because I'm running close to time. Please subscribe, like, and comment, and I'll see you next week. Take care of yourselves and have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching.